to the studio. My name is Melissa and today we are going to make a super squishy soft short cardigan. We will be using this yarn which is called Fluffy Day. I got it from Hobbii. It is 100% acrylic and it is super soft. I wish there was squish-o-vision. You could feel it. It is so lovely and they have a huge range of colors. Knock yourself out. There are so many colors. They don't have names. Of always don't have names. This is color number 20. So very beautiful. You will need 4 balls of this. You will also need your 7mm hook, because I always do my starting chain as a hook size higher to get a more even look. So therefore the body of the work will be a 6mm hook, and these are from Furls. There is also, you will require your scissors, a yarn needle. You may also want some stitch markers and you might need a tape measure. You will also need some form of clip. Now this clip is comes apart like so, and it attaches just by hooking onto the garment wherever you need it. And yeah, and it's how you attach the 2 sides of the cardigan together, and you can have it at different positions. So now that you have all your materials, let's get this project started. Once you have found the end of your yarn, do a slip knot, grab your larger hook, and you will be chaining 69. Okay, once you have your 69 stitches, change your hook to your smaller hook, which is our 6mm hook. Chain 1. Now this first row is a half double crochet row. We will not be doing the first stitch into that chain there. We'll be going into the next stitch. We're not going in the front, we are going in the back. So miss that chain 1, go to the next stitch, yarn over, go into that loop on the back of the stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go into that next stitch, on the back, that loop there, go straight in there, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through all the loops on the hook, yarn over, into the next stitch, straight into that loop there, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through all the loops on the hook. And keep doing this into every single stitch until you get to the end of this row. Now you need to make sure you have an odd number of stitches, and the pattern will not work without that. So when you come to the end, just double check that you have your 69 stitches, and I will meet you when you're at the end of this row. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row and I have checked. I do have my 69 stitches, and therefore I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn my work, and now we're going to do 5 rows of griddle stitch. Now griddle stitch, what we need to do is go into that very first stitch and we're doing a single crochet. So straight into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, and grab your yarn and go through the 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, for the next stitch is going to be a double crochet. So go straight into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, and then grab your yarn and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Next stitch, single crochet. Next stitch, double crochet. Next stitch, single crochet. So straight into that stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through all the loops on the hook, so the 2 loops on the hook. Double crochet, yarn over, go into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, grab a yarn, pull through the last 2 loops on the hook. Next stitch, single crochet. Next stitch, double. Next, single. Then double. So you'll get the hint here. It's a single crochet followed by a double crochet, a single crochet followed by a double crochet. So do that all the way to the end of the row and you should be finishing with a single crochet. I will meet you there when you have finished. So my last stitch is going to be a single crochet, then chain 1, turn your work. Now we're on round 2 of our griddle stitch, and at this point I actually put a stitch marker. Let me find a stitch marker. There we go. I put a stitch marker here just so that I know that I've done, that's my first row, and then I can just count from this the 5 rows of griddle stitch. So the first stitch of every griddle stitch row is going to be a single crochet and then your double crochet. And you'll notice that your single crochets are going to go on top of your single crochet and your double crochets are going to go on top of your double crochets. Now a single crochet looks like a V. Your double crochet has the little cap on top. So can you see there? There's your V. And there's the cap on the, so single, double, single, double. So if you get yourself lost or you put it down to do something like answer the phone, you can know where you're up to when you see that V means I'm at a single, and when I see that cap on the top there, that's a double. So always do your single in your single and your doubles in your double. At the start and the end of every row will be a single crochet. Then chain 1, turn your work, and then keep going. So do 5 rows of griddle stitch, and I will meet you back here after you have finished your 5 rows. We have finished our 5 rows of griddle stitch, and now we are going, that's the edge, the trimming of the front of your panel of your cardigan, and now we are going to be moving on to the body of the front. And what we need to do now is chain 1, turn your work, and we're doing half double crochets. So yarn over, go straight into that first stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, and grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. Yarn over into the next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn, pull through all the loops on the hook, and keep doing your half double crochets all the way down. Now at this point I'd actually move the stitch marker up to here so that you can mark that this is row 1. Alright, make your way down to the end of the row and I will meet you down there and show you what to do next. Okay, last stitch on that first row of half double crochets, go straight into that end stitch there, chain 1, turn your work, and we just continue doing half double crochets. Now you need to do 30 rows of half double crochet, and once you have finished your 30 rows I will show you what you need to do next. Okay, we have finished our 30 rows of half double crochet, and now we got to mark out where the armhole goes. So you can see that I have put a couple of stitch markers here. So what I have done is counted 15 stitches, and on the 16th stitch I've put a stitch marker. Then I count that as number 1 and do another 24 stitches, and on the 24th stitch I put a stitch marker. Now what we're going to do is chain 1, turn your work, and you're doing half double crochet in the next 15 stitches. So that should bring you to the stitch before the stitch marker. Okay, so we've done our 15 stitches up to the stitch marker, and now what we need to do is chain 24. Now this 24 is going to correspond with the 24 stitches we have along here, and that makes your hole. So chain 24, and 1, 2, 3, Now that you have chained your 24, we need to connect it, and we're going to connect it to the stitch just after that stitch marker. So yarn over, and what I do is I hold that with my thumb. I go into that stitch after the stitch marker, I grab the yarn, I pull it through, then I swap thumbs and hold it there, and then I go yarn over and straight through all the loops on the hook. Then I continue my half double crochets all the way down to the end of the row. We are now at the end of the row, and you can see now that we have made our armhole. At the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and continue your half double crochets until you get back to that chain, and I'll meet you there and show you what to do next. We are now at our chain, and what we need to do now is to put a stitch in the back of each loop of the chain. The reason why we do this is it just makes it easy when you come to doing your sleeve to find your stitches. So you go yarn over, turn your chain over until you find that loop that's at the back of the chain. Now it is the hardest, the first two are the hardest to find. So there's the loop there. So yarn over, go straight into the back of that stitch, into that loop, grab a yarn, pull it through, and grab a yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, there's the next loop. Just go into there. And keep doing that until you finish putting a stitch in every one of your chains. Alright, so we have now put a stitch on the top of every one of our chains, and we just continue doing our half double crochets to the end of the row. Now when you finish this row, make sure you have the same amount of stitches you started out with, which should be 69. Finish that row, and now we can say we've started the first row of the back panel. So what I would suggest is that you grab one of these stitch markers, put it at the end of that row there, that first row that you did of the back panel. Then we're going to chain 1, turn your work, and for this I am doing 50 rows for the back panel. That makes it about 52 centimeters for the back. Now what I would suggest is measure out the person that you're making this for back and do the back panel to that width. I found that the 52 centimeter back was around about a size 12 to 14, and I have made this for people who like a loose cardigan. So if you want to keep it the same, just keep following along with me and do the 50 rows. So keep half double crocheting 50 rows, and I will meet you back here once you have finished your 50 rows. We have now finished our 50 rows, and now what we need to do is we need to mirror image another armhole, this panel, and the decorative side panel. So we have one front and the back, and now we have to do the second front here. So we're pretty much doing exactly what we did for the first panel, but reversing it. Okay, so remember that you need to mark in to where your 15 stitches, and on your 16th stitch put a stitch marker. Then from that is number 1 stitch to do 24 stitches and put a stitch marker at the 24th stitch, and then from the 24th stitch onwards is the rest of your side. Now make sure when you're doing the next panel, so that's the one we've already done, and here we are moving on to the next bit, you need to make sure that your armhole is at the same side, not marking it out down the bottom, or if you're going to have a lopsided cardigan. So make sure that it is the same side. You've got the short edge, the 15 stitches up here, not down here. So you can see that I've already marked. So I've gone 15 stitches to here, number 16 stitch, put a stitch marker in. Then I've counted from the 16th stitch as stitch number 1 to do 24 stitches, and on the 24th stitch I've put my stitch marker. Alright, so if you remember, we are now going to half double crochet up to the stitch marker. So chain 1, turn your work, and half double crochet up to that stitch marker. We are up to the stitch before where you put the stitch marker. Now we're going to chain 24. There is our chain, and now we're going to attach via half double crochet. So yarn over, hold on to it. Not that stitch you got your stitch marker in, but the next stitch. Put your hook in, grab a yarn, and then I hold it all and bring my yarn through those loops like that, and half double crochet to the end. Now we have finished that row, and there's your armhole. Chain 1, turn your work, and now we half double crochet all the way along. And remember, when you get to the chain, you're half double crocheting in the back of the chain, so in that loop at the back. And remember that this is row number 1 of your second front panel. So at this stage I grab a stitch marker. Don't need them at the armhole anymore, so you can grab it out of there, and I mark that as row number 1. And now we are at the chain, so we are going to put a stitch into the back loop of each chain. Just remembering the first two are always the trickiest. Like I said, the first two are always the trickiest. There we go. And keep doing your stitches in your chain. And now you have finished your chain, so continue half double crocheting until you get to the end. At the end of that row, chain 1, turn your work, and continue on with your half double crochets. And if you remember, you are going to be doing a total of 30 rows. So we've done row number 1, 29 more to go, and once you have completed your total of 30 rows, I will meet you back here and show you what to do next. We have completed our 30 rows of our second front panel. So now what we need to do is our 5 rows of the griddle stitch. And if you remember, chain 1, turn your work, and you will always start with a single crochet followed by your double. Single, double, single, double, and keep doing that. And remember, 5 rows. You always end and start with a single crochet. Once you've done your 5 rows, I will meet you back here and show you what to do next. We have now completed our 5 rows of griddle stitch, and one last thing we need to do for this panel, chain 1, turn your work, and you are doing 1 row of half double crochet. When you have finished that, snip off the yarn and finish your you'll be finishing this panel, and then you move on to the arms. Okay, so we've finished that half double crochet row. Now we're finished with the yarn on this bit. Snip off yarn, pull it through, and there we go. That panel is now finished. Now we move to doing the arms. It doesn't matter which arm you start off with. So make sure you've worked out which is your front, which is your back, and it really doesn't matter. They should be exactly the same. Getting the end of your yarn again and going to the bottom of your armhole. Okay. And put the hook in just up from the V. Start your yarn however you start your yarn. Chain one. And what I do at the V's, just to neaten it up and hopefully prevent any gapping, is I merge it together. So I go yarn over, go into the first gap, the first hole, go into the second hole, and go into the third hole. And then I grab my yarn and I pull through all the loops that are on the hook. And we'll try that again. Okay, so that just hopefully neatens up the bottom of your armhole. We're going to repeat the same thing when we get to the top. And then you are creating a stitch on top of every one of the previous stitches. Now this should hopefully bring you to 51 stitches. So just put a stitch on top of the previous stitch that is already in your armhole. We are now at the top end of the sleeve, so let's go and mush it all together. So we are going 1, 2, 3, and then yarn through all the loops on the hook, and then just keep going into the stitches all the way around. Okay, I've come to the last stitch at the end of this foundation row, this first row of our sleeve, and I always put the last stitch in the same stitch I started with. The reason I do this is because it actually makes it neater, I find, and brings it close together, and you don't have a big gaping hole. So now I've already counted and I have 51 stitches, which is what I want. And then I'm going to join this row together. So I just do a slip stitch into the first stitch of this round. I chain one, turn my work, and your first stitch is not going to go into where that chain one was, into here, this stitch here. It's going to go into here. And then work a stitch into every one of your stitches, and then when you finish, just double check you still got 51. Now at this point I also grab a stitch marker. Should have one on this already that I haven't removed, and I put a stitch marker into that first row. Now this is to show me which one is the first row, because as you can see it's blended in quite nicely there now. So I know that that's row number 1, and I'm wanting to do 5 rows of half double crochet. So I've done row number 1, I'm now on row number 2. When you finish row number 2, I'll show you what we do at the end of each row. back at the end of row 2, and the last stitch in this row is going to go in the same stitch that we did the first stitch in for this row, and then join the row together with a slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and remember missing that first stitch there and going into the next stitch with half double crochets, and this will be row number 3. Alrighty, I've come to the end of my 5th row, so putting my stitch in that same stitch that we started the row, and then slip stitching the row together, chain 1, turn your work, oh sorry, knocked you there, and remembering that we missed that first stitch there, go into the next stitch, but pull your yarn through, but this time we're doing decrease. So let's start that again. So on the start of your 6th row, okay, let's start again. We've just done 5 rows. We're doing 5 row panels. So on the start of the next set of 5, so this is now row 1 on the next set of 5, we are decreasing. So every time you get to the next set of 5, that first row, you're doing a decrease row. Sorry, a decrease on the first stitch of that round. So yarn over, go into that stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Go straight into the next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, then grab your yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. And continue half double crocheting until you get to the end of the round. Now what I would suggest is that you grab a stitch marker, I've got another one on my that I haven't removed, and place a stitch marker into that start of that row. The reason why is that now you know that that row there is row number 1 of your next set of 5. So you know this is 5 here, and this will be the next set of 5. And you can put that on, I start each set of my 5s with a stitch marker so I know, and then when I've done 10, I have a block of 10 and I shift the stitch marker up. Hope that makes sense. But you can do it any way you like to count. I just like to know where my next set of 5 started. Also helps with counting because you're going to be doing this until you've decreased to 45 stitches. And it's nice to know where you're up to and remember how many you're at. So this should now bring you down to 50 stitches because you started off with 51. This now should have 50 stitches. And continue half double crocheting till you get to the end of the row, and I'll show you what to do next. We've come to the end of this row. This is the decrease row, this first row of the next set of 5. We're joining, doing the last stitch in the same stitch we started, and then slip stitching the row together. Chain 1, turn your work, and continue going. So you have another 4 rows without any decrease to do. And once you have finished those 4 other rows, so that makes a total of 5 rows, then you'll be on your next set of 5 to first row to decrease, and then 4 more rows of half double crochet without decreasing, and keep doing this until you have got 45 stitches left. That should bring you to 35 rows, and then your last set of rows will be without a decrease, which will bring you up to 40 rows. So do decrease to 45 stitches. It should bring you to last 5 rows without any decrease. 40 rows in total. When you have done that, I will meet you back here to show you what you need to do next. Now that we've finished that part of the arm and we've done all our 40 rows for now, let's do a recap. So we started off with 51 stitches to create start the sleeve. Then when we went 5 rows in, we decreased to 50. 5 rows in, decreased to 49, 48, 47, 46, 45. And then I only needed to decrease to 45. So these last 10 rows here are all at 45. Once you have got there, then what we will be doing is the griddle stitch again. And that's the same stitch that we did along the border on the front panels. So we are going to now do the griddle stitch. So if you remember, you always have to finish off your row exactly the same. So that's, I need to finish off my row. So let's do our slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work. Now when you're doing your griddle stitch, you're always starting off with a single crochet. Then you double crochet in your next stitch. Then you single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, and remember you just keep doing that all the way around. Now when you finish, when you get back to the start, it should be a single crochet. So keep going around doing your single crochet and double crochet, and I will meet you at when you've come to the end of this row. We are back at the start of our row, and the last stitch goes into the same stitch as the first stitch, and that one is going to be your single crochet, and then you join the row together. But before doing that, grab your stitch marker and mark that row as your first row of this round of, we're doing five rounds of griddle stitch. So then join your row together with a slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and your first stitch will always be the first stitch on top of the previous. So the single crochet goes on the single crochet. So you can see there's the single crochet, and you go straight on top of the single crochet with a single crochet. Then double crochet on top of your double, single on your single, double on your double, and keep going around. And repeat this for 5 rows. So that you've done row number 1, you're on row number 2, and you'll have another 3 after this. Just remember that you're always starting and finishing your griddle stitch with a single crochet. And when you come to the end of your 5th row, I will meet you there and show you what you do next. At the end of the 5th row of our griddle stitch on our cuff, and now we just need to do that last stitch there, which is the single crochet into that last stitch. Join your row together with your slip stitch, chain 1, turn your work, and this is going to be the last row of your sleeve, and this will be a half double crochet. So just do 1 row of half double crochet all the way around the edge of your cuff. When you have finished that row, join your row together with your slip stitch, and then get your scissors snip the end off, pull that through, sew in your end. You can take out your stitch marker, and that is 1 sleeve finished. You will need to repeat the whole process on your 2nd sleeve. And now that you have finished your cardigan, it should look a little bit like this. And you can see here we've got 1 sleeve, 2 sleeve, and the front. And you can decorate the front and clasp it close with one of these little clasps here. I buy this, it comes together like so, from Amazon. I think it was about no more than $5 each. Came in a pack of 6. Don't quote me, could have been 4. But yes, very cheap, very easy, and what I like about it, easy to hook together, but they are movable. You just clip them on. So you can clip them on wherever you like on your cardigan, corresponding side, and then just hook it together. So you can wear it like this, or you can wear it like this. Wherever you would like to put your clasp, you can do so. That's the beauty of this, it's movable. Okay, everybody, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have done so, please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And hopefully I will see you here again in the studio sometime soon for one of my other tutorials. I look forward to that, and thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, everyone!